Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. So in this video, we are going to be knocking out two projects at once, or you could call it one project, but we're going to be knocking out a copper and spatula ladle blank that you can find over our website, www.blacksmithingblanks.com. So we are now offering copper and stainless steel variants of our kits. So we have full out-fledged kits that you can buy, or you can buy just the copper spatula and ladle blank by themselves. But today we are going to take and be working on these, and I think it'll be a fun time. And you can apply these even if you're not buying blanks from us and you've got a source of copper already. You can apply a lot of the techniques and tips in this video, hopefully to your own shop and into your own projects. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, first thing, what will you get in your kit? So if you get a spatula or you get a ladle blank, this is how they will come to you. They look a little dirty just because they've been tumbled in a tumbler where there has been some steel. So you get a little bit of that powder on there. We'll wipe them down the best we can. But you will get them in this with a nice tumbled copper finish. And then you will also, if you buy a kit, you will have your selection of either a teardrop style handle or a hooktail style handle. If you're interested in seeing all the various variations of these that we have on offer, I will link up the videos where we've done full tutorials of how to do spatula and ladle blanks in the past. But we're going to show you how to do it in copper here. So again, you'll get some handles with it if you choose to buy a kit. Also with that kit, if you buy a kit, you will get the copper rivets that you can rivet the whole thing together with. These are 1/4 inch diameter rivets by 3/4 inch long that will go into these handles. So you'll get these right there that come with it. Now the individual copper blanks themselves do not come with rivets, so you will have to purchase those separately as a separate purchase if you want to take and buy copper rivets from us or somewhere else. If you buy the kit, they come with them. So the very first step in this process is we're actually going to work on the steel portion first. This is just mild steel. We're going to forge out these handles and give them more shape. Again, this is just a blank, so think of this as a pre-form. It's to get you quicker they're a means to a quicker end, if you will. So we're going to start forging on those first, and then we will come back to the spatula and copper, the copper spatula and ladle here in just a few minutes. All right, so step one with these, I'm going to work on the end that's going to connect to the copper spatula and ladle, and we're going to forge this down. I'm going to try to preserve my fishtail there on the end, but I'm going to neck this area down behind that to give this handle a lot more shape. As you can see, I'm working over the horn of the anvil so I can create that nice curvature there. Just like that. Work that transition into one another. Just give it a little straighten up here. And you can make this, you can stretch this out as long and narrow and thin as you would like. Put as much or as little hammer work in it as you would like. Again, the choice is up to you on that. So for right now, I'm going to call out my first stage of forging. I'm going to set that down. And I'm going to forge, since we're making a pair here, a copper spatula and ladle, I'm going to bring out my other piece and forge it to the same point. This is going to want to pucker on you. Don't let it do too much of that without you addressing that. And it might require a little bit of fuffing about with it to take and figure it out to get the shape just right or proportionate. But these go together well. Now the tongs I'm using for these are a box jaw tong. I made these, actually I've got a whole video series on YouTube here around making tongs, hand forging your own tongs. These came out of a piece of 1/4x1 flat bar stock. And so you can make your very own box jaw tongs if you feel up to that task. Be sure to check out that playlist series. So as you can see, that's what we're going for. And that's basically what we have. Now you can keep stretching these out however you would like. I'm not going to do a ton with these. I'm actually just going to leave them with a little light scallop hammer texture for later on, and then give these some shape. So I'll be back with you once we're ready to give it a little bit of shape. For this next step, I'm going to use a ball peen hammer that's had the face crown to it, and I'm going to use a cupping tool or a dish in my anvil. We are going to give this a little bit of shape right on the very end because we want it to match the curvature of our ladle. Now, you don't have to go crazy with this. If you do not have a cupping tool, that is fine. Go ahead and use what you have. You can use a wooden block to do this as well. I just happen to have a cupping tool that's handy here at the anvil, and so therefore I'm going to use it instead. So now once we've established that cup to it, as you can see, it's a very slight cupping to it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give it a bend, just like so. And we're not going to go too super crazy with that. We can always adjust this later. We can make it just straight up and down. We can make it really curved. You can do whatever you want for your own particular project. But I'm going to just do a very light curve to it because that's all I need it for my own particular purposes of my own ladle. So I'll give it a real kind of a little tight curl there, and that's what we're looking for just for my ladle. So that portion is done. Now, if you have a touch mark and you so choose, you may want to go ahead and use your touch mark at this point. Since we're here and we're talking about it, and I want to go ahead and touch mark it myself. Somewhere down here close to the end of the handle, if you will. So just going to put it there, a little maker's mark. And then these will get center punch marked and drilled through and applied to the copper and then riveted together. But that's later on. So there's the ladle handle all done. I will set it off to the side. And now I'll bring out the spatula handle. Now the spatula handle is actually pretty darn simple. We're not going to have to do anything with this as far as cupping it because we're working against a flat against a flat spatula. But what we are going to do, if we get some of these hammers off of our anvil, we are just going to bend this at a slight angle. So right here, we're going to leave off about 1 inch of material, and we're going to bend this at an angle. Just like so. And then that will be our flapjack flipper there. As you can see, the reason for this bend in here, and we may decide to add a little curve in here just to accentuate that a little bit, give it a little nice curvature. The reason why we're doing that is to take and get your knuckles up off of that hot frying pan or the hot skillet that you may be working with. So there's my touch mark on that one. If you have a maker's mark, now's the time to put it in. So there you go. That sets us up for our spatula or our flapjack flipper. So before we start forming these, we want to anneal them. As you can see, this is a nice dull red. You don't want to go above this, don't want to go up to bright orange. You're starting to almost melt it at that point with copper. But we want a nice dull red, and then we're going to quench this off. So I'm going to go over to my slack tub real quick. And I'm going to quench that off. And the way copper works is this is how you anneal it. You heat it up, and when you quench it, it actually gets softer. Unlike steel, where if you were to heat steel up, like a high carbon steel, heat that steel up and then quench it, you're going to end up having it harden on you. Well, with copper blanks, it's not so. Copper is one of those things that it actually gets softer when you have heated it and you've expanded that grain structure, and it gets tighter and tighter as you work it, and therefore harder and harder or more and more brittle as you work the piece. So that's step one. We want to take and quench the copper blank. We want to pre-anneal these. So I'm going to come out with my spatula. Again, you'll see it's got that red color to it. You probably don't want to do this in too bright of a shop, so you can see that proper red color. I'm going to quench it. And when I bring this piece out, you can see that one came out a little bit more orange, where the other one came out a little bit more red. This one was a little cool when I quenched it. I should have been a little hotter on that one when I went to quenching it, like I was on the spatula. But now this is ready that you can actually even hold this thing in hand, assuming it's cooled down sufficiently in your slack tub. You can actually handle this by hand now and shape this nice and cold. So you have a long work time to be able to shape this. So much so that now, doing the spatula, say I want to sharpen this edge up, I could do this cold now without worry of that end fracturing. See? So I put those bevels on that piece and come to this edge right here. I could go ahead and put some edge bevels on here on my spatula piece. And I don't have to worry about the time it takes with working with hot material. Just like that, I've sharpened out all these edges. It can later be cleaned up. If you want to make them sharper, you can sand them sharper. But I'm just doing a simple forged bevel around like that, and we're ready to go. Now keep in mind, as you hammer on this, it's going to get harder. It'll get harder and harder, and the noise level will change. It'll go from more of a dull thwack, and it'll be more of a ting. And that's how you know you're getting close to its overall hardness. At the same stage, now we can look at where we want to take and bend up our spatula blank. So my recommendation is to do at least at where that curve is. So where the curve ends and the straight walls begin, you go ahead and curve it there. Or take a little bit longer of a bite, so maybe 1/4 inch down past that in the vise, and forge it up like that. For this particular time though, I'm going to hold this down on the anvil's edge. I'm going to line it up there, and I'm going to bend it right at that juncture that we're talking about. You don't have to do a whole bunch with it. But as you can see, that's pretty cool, right? Didn't take us, that's not real hard to do. Didn't take us real long to make that. It's one of the things I love about copper. Now we'll check our handle against it. Boom. Very nice. About the perfect angle. I may end up bending that up just a fuzz more. So this way this sticks up a little higher. Again, it's copper, so we got all day in the world to hammer on it here. Stand it up a little higher, because we're cold working it, right? Just like so. I can crisp that edge up just by lifting up slightly, working against my nice clean edge of my anvil. Just like so. We've got a nice crisp edge, and boom. That flapjack flipper is ready to go. All I have to do now is rivet that together so you can see how that works. So there's the spatula done, or almost done. Obviously we will have some cleanup work, a little bit of sanding, remove some rough edges and stuff like that for the handle to make it a little bit more comfortable for folks to hold on to. So that's all just with the amount of cleanup work that you want to do. So now we're ready to take and actually move on to actually dishing this. And for that, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here in the next slide, in the next clip, and we're going to work this over just a wooden stump that has a depression in it. So you don't need any fancy tooling to do this. You just need a wooden stump that has a small depression hollowed out in it. And we'll show you that here in just a second. Okay, so here I got just a 4x6 timber laying up on the anvil. As I'm using the side grain of this, it's hard to tell, but there's just this ever so small, shallow depression in the surface of this. I can use a wood block like this to straighten out hot things or dome hot things with steel, and then you can always use copper in it afterwards. And then here's my blank. So using the same ball peen hammer that I've got a slight crown to the flat face of it, I'm going to use this to actually raise this little copper vessel up, and I'm going to just hold it in spot. Now, I have tools in my shop that I can use that would make this expediently way easier. But I want to show for you guys at home how you can do this with minimal tooling. So we're just going to keep sinking that down and raising the sides up in a semicircular pattern. Okay, so now that we've got our ladle completely formed, all that's left is to take and rivet this up after cleaning this up. So you have many ways that you can do this. You can pickle this. You can just go straight to sanding, wire wheeling, grinding, any way that you see fit that you want to take and do your own particular project. Maybe you wire wheel this up, heat it up, and give it a little brass brushing or something like that. Might look cool. The copper, however, let's talk for a minute about finishing copper. If you're going to finish your copper, the fine dust particulates are bad for your health. So when you're finishing copper, you must wear a respirator with this. Don't play around. Don't say, well, it's only one piece. Get your mask on, get your respirator on, and protect your lungs from metal toxicity. Trust me on this one. Just trust me. You need to take and wear a respirator when you're finally finishing copper. Now, some people will ask, well, isn't copper toxic? No, copper is only toxic when it turns to that verdigris color. There's toxicity, there's toxic in those oxides there, and so you do not want copper oxide getting in your mouth or bloodstream or things like that, so you do need to clean these up. Now, you can take and pickle the copper to get all the scale off and leave it as hammered or as pickled. You could do it like that, or you can get in here and wire wheel it, but again, wire wheel it or sand it, but I do suggest that you wear a respirator when doing so for safety's sakes. As far as cooking with these, as long as this is not engaging with a lot of acidic, just sitting submersed in acidic liquids like tomato sauce or something like that, you should never have any issues out of copper. I have a serving ladle that we have been using for literally a decade to no bad or ill effect on me or my family. So again, copper is perfectly safe to cook, you know, to take and stir things with or to eat from, but it is not great to cook acidic, have anything acidic near this, because again, it strips off some of that copper and leaves a penny-like taste in your mouth, and that's how you can tell that you're eating a little bit of copper there. So that kind of goes over a little bit of the safety things around copper. I know that'll probably come up, but I'm going to go ahead and get these cleaned up, and I'll be back with you when we're ready to take and do the final step, which is assembly. So now that you've got your copper ladle cleaned up to your own liking and your own specifications for your customer, potentially, what you have to do now after, as you see, I've gotten this all wire wheeled up and I took in steel wool, used a piece of steel wool to basically clean this copper up to a shiny finish here. Once we're there, I'm going to walk you through how I go about assembly work. So the very first step in the process, I like to drill both my hole locations for the handle only first. So I drill through the steel handle exactly where I want my hole locations to be for the steel handle. Next, after that, I drill only one side. So I lay this on the ladle to find out where this sits the nicest, where it's squarest to the ladle, and then I go ahead and put a mark in one of the holes that I previously drilled. That gets center punch marked and then drilled at the drill press or with a hand drill over a block of wood is my suggestions. After that, we put our first rivet in. We install that rivet by hammering and riveting it up tight. So this way all this is held together. We check for confirmation to make sure this handle is square like we would like it to be. And then finally, we go ahead and from the back side, we drill through our second rivet location. We do this because if you've ever done any riveting work before, this will be repeat for you, but if you have never done riveting work before, the reason why we do this is to stop the holes from spreading. So as you expand the rivet inside the hole, the holes are going to expand apart from each other. So if you drill one hole and you drill another hole, as soon as you rivet up one hole tight, that other hole has now shifted out of alignment and you'll have to re-drill that hole. So that's why we don't do that. So I just put the rivet through. Now one quick note about this rivet. On this particular setup, in this arrangement of how I have it forged here with the copper, these are 3/4 inch long rivets because I wasn't able to source 1/2 inch long rivets. So there's a little extra length that is not needed to rivet this up. So you may want to take and trim that off. However you find convenient. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go right here to this little stake. This could just be the end of a bar or something like that you've ground smooth for the purpose, just to hold the bottom side of that rivet head. If you would like this to be a domed head, you may make that a dome head rivet block on the underneath side there. So this way you can maintain that dome. We're going to rivet that straight down. I am personally okay with the look of having a little flat spot on the dome head of my rivet. And now I'm going to go ahead and sync up the other side. Take the other side up a little tighter. Boom. All done. So you can see how quickly that all goes together. And it's a fun project. So now we have our soup, like a soup spoon / ladle. Good and tasty. And likewise, we have our spatula. The process is the same, if I don't kick it around the shop rocks down below. But the process is exactly the same for either one. The only difference with the spatula is, as you can see, you can lay this nicely on the edge of your anvil and rivet and upset the rivets that way, which is a nice way of doing it, versus having to have some domed or curved surface to work with inside the bowl of the actual ladle there. But there you have it. There's a copper spatula and ladle set here. Again, you can find this kit, this full kit that you can put together yourself in both the hooktail handle style and the teardrop handle style over at our website, www.blacksmithingblanks.com. Be sure to check the link in the description. So anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on the next one.